A San Francisco nonprofit landlord that housed homeless people in hotels ended up spending millions to evict them due to crime, trash, drugs, and problems. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of San Francisco, California. Now, obviously, this is not the place where I would be investing, as a landlord. And they have very far left-leaning progressive politics. They're very anti-landlord. There's a lot of ridiculous socialist policies that are in place. Basically, it's an awful place to be if you're a landlord, a business owner, an actual taxpayer, anyone, unless you are either super rich or you're super poor. If you're super poor, they're going to take care of you. And that's exactly what's happening in this story I'm going to be going over today. So basically, the city was like, hey, we got all these homeless people here, right? So they got these nonprofits and they said, hey, we need to house these homeless people. Let's put them up in these hotels. So they got these nonprofits to put these homeless people up in hotels. Sounds like a great idea, except for the fact that they forgot that most of the people are homeless for a reason, because they have major problems. A lot of them are mentally ill. A lot of them are, substance abuse issues. They have substance abuse issues. And they went into these hotels, and now the nonprofit, the one that was supposed to be helping the homeless, is actually going through the eviction process with them because they need to get them the heck out of there because they're a danger to the other people in the hotel. They're tearing the place apart. It's absolutely ridiculous. Basically, they're learning that, hey, our good intentions to help the homeless, they don't work the way that these aren't, just easy cases to handle. Okay. And people aren't happy about it. So all the homeless advocates are like, well, this nonprofit is basically abusing these people. No, they're not. They're doing what they have to do to get them people out. Now, I don't really feel sorry for them, though. Keep in mind, this nonprofit is almost 100%. No, I think it is 100% funded by the government. Okay. So essentially, they are just an extension of the government, and they are dealing with the issues that the government created. And they created the homelessness issue. They allow, the open air drug markets. There's no repercussions for crime. And, this is the result. You end up, now you're stuck under these same eviction protections that you put all the private landlords under. You can't get these people out easily or cheaply or quickly. And the end result is, hey, now you have two competing priorities, one to stop evictions and one to help homelessness. And you can't do either, okay? So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button. Maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? What do you think of a nonprofit or a government housing authority being one of the worst evictors in the entire city, okay? Now, I bring up San Francisco, but I've actually read the same thing about New York, how, the New York City Housing Authority, they file more evictions than anyone else. Now, I realize they're a very, very large landlord, but they also rate as one of the worst landlords in the entire city. And that's absolutely ridiculous. But when you think about it, you're like, hey, socialized housing, this housing where there's no profit incentive there, right? It is the absolute worst. Okay, anything run by the government, you're going to have to go through all this bureaucracy. It's going to be in horrible shape. The government is not good at maintaining properties for 30, 40, 50 years. Okay, they're just not good at it. It just they have too much bureaucracy involved. There's too many different priorities that are in place, and it just ends up being a complete disaster. That's why, private property ownership, in my opinion, is far superior, and they have to come up with a better solution to the homelessness issue, a better solution to the affordable housing issue than just, hey, we're gonna, throw money at these nonprofits, or hey, we're gonna build a whole bunch of public housing. That's a stupid idea. Wow. So, anyway, this article, it's coming from the San Francisco Chronicle, and it says, the Breed administration offered them homes. Then it spent millions to kick them out. So this article is actually behind a paywall, right? And I was able to copy and paste some of the article into my email. So I'll be reading from that today. So let's get into it. Robert Bowman scanned the aisles of a downtown Target. It was May, and the 49-year-old man with congestive heart failure was about to become homeless. He needed to buy a tent he could pitch on concrete, with fabric strong enough to withstand San Francisco's summer winds. He had lived on the streets before, in a life waylaid by trauma, loss, and illness. But 4 years ago, he moved inside when the city's Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing offered him a room at the Elm Hotel in the Tenderloin. Bowman, though, repeatedly violated the Elm's visitor policy and owed more than $2,000 in back rent. Now he faced eviction and an uncertain future. Standing in the Target, he spied a red Coleman tent locked in a glass case. The package showed it set up in a woodsy clearing, sun trickling through the trees. Now, before I get into anything else, just keep in mind that he's standing in a Target and they have tents that are locked in a case, okay? I mean, I don't know what kind of Target this is, but the theft is so bad in San Francisco, they literally have to lock tents up because people will come in and steal them. Okay, that's not the way that Target is here in Omaha. In fact, I've never seen a Target where they've had to lock tents up before. That's awful, okay? And that doesn't even go into the rest of this story. So they're painting this, this hard luck image for this tenant, okay? And this tenant, he's gone through all sorts of trauma and he was homeless and, well, you know what? That's awful, okay? It's awful being homeless. I realize that people, they fall on bad luck at times, right? But here's the big thing. You are responsible for taking care of yourself, okay? The government is not responsible for that. And when there's people like you and you are disruptive, you're, not paying your rent, you're not working, you're basically causing more issues, and that's not beneficial to the other tenants that are in the building. That's not beneficial to the nonprofit. And, maybe it's just time that you move along. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a good situation. I don't like to see anybody who ends up stuck on the street, right? But you dug your own hole in this situation. I mean, it says here that, you repeatedly violated the visitor policy and you owe $2,000, okay? I mean, you have to do a lot to get kicked out of government subsidized housing. Okay, you have to do a lot to get to get kicked out of this kind of nonprofit. So I don't know what exactly you were doing, but I imagine that these people, you're in a place with the last place where they'll take almost anybody in there, and you ended up getting kicked out. So you had to screw up pretty bad. I'll take that one, he told the store employee, wondering where in the Tenderloin he would put it. Mayor London Breed and her top deputies at the homelessness department have relied on single-room occupancy hotels like the Elm, known as SROs, as a central solution to the homelessness crisis. Yet the Breed administration has spent millions of taxpayer dollars since 2019 to evict at least 410 people from the same SROs they promised to lift them from the streets, while failing to regulate the process or prevent people like Bowman from cycling back to homelessness, a Chronicle investigation found. So yeah, they've spent millions of dollars. There's a problem right there too, okay? And I know I'm very early in this article, but why does it cost you millions of dollars to evict these people? That's crazy. But I imagine that what's happening is, hey, they got to go through this horrible court process that they created, mind you, okay? They might even have to pay these people off. Like, here's several $1,000s, please leave. Who knows, okay? They're paying attorneys. They're spending millions of dollars, but it was created by all of the eviction protections that they put in place. So it doesn't really make me mad reading this, because I'm like, hey, you get what you deserve. You created the problem, now you deal with it. Broken homes. Attempting to solve its homelessness crisis, San Francisco spends $160 million a year on permanent supportive housing. But by failing to provide safe and stable homes for the city's most vulnerable residents, local leaders have set many of them up to fail. This is the second installment in an investigative series. Read the first part here. The number represents about a quarter of all court-ordered evictions carried out by the Sheriff's Department citywide from January 2019 to May 2022, though these SROs house about 1.3% of the city's renters. And reporters found that the scope of the problem is even larger, as countless more people are forced out of residential hotels informally or through channels the city doesn't track. So basically, they make up 1.3% of all the rentals in the city, but they make up 25% of the evictions. That's insane, okay? It's really telling, though, the quality of the tenants that they have within these properties more than anything, okay? It's not saying that, hey, this nonprofit is not a good landlord, right? What it is saying is, hey, this nonprofit is filling this place up with a whole bunch of people with serious mental illness and serious substance abuse issues, okay? And, when you're dealing with that kind of people, the very bottom of the barrel people who aren't used to, following rules, aren't used to paying bills, etc., you're going to have a lot more evictions. Believe me, the private landlords who deal in very low income housing have the exact same issues, okay? The Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, or HSH, signs contracts with nonprofit organizations to run day-to-day operations at the SROs, including evictions. Reporters found that the city agency, which reports directly to Breed, does not require nonprofits and their subcontractors to have standardized policies for preventing or limiting evictions, and sets no rules or guidelines for when a property manager can kick out a tenant. Under these circumstances, records show, people are typically forced out of SROs for the same issues that qualified them for supportive housing in the first place: poverty, mental illness, trauma, and inability to care for themselves. If they're being evicted, they're going back out to the streets or bouncing around from SRO to SRO, said Andrea Blackman, a case manager at the Winton Hotel, an SRO in the Tenderloin. I haven't seen a situation where someone was evicted and they were okay. So, the same issues that they were forced to move into these hotels for, right, is the reason they're getting kicked out. But that should tell you right there that these hotels are not the solution that we need, okay? We need, serious treatment of this substance abuse issue, okay? We need, to punish these people who are committing the crimes, okay? And maybe the only place where they can get that substance abuse treatment is in jail or in prison. Okay, and believe me, I worked in a prison. I saw the people who were going through the drug treatment programs, and I saw the people with serious mental health issues who were finally able to get the medication they needed to keep themselves in balance, right? And the only way they could do that was within the confines of a facility. That's the truth, okay? And so instead of having a lot of these, criminal people out on the streets who are causing all sorts of trouble, maybe they need to be within a facility. I know that isn't politically correct. That isn't what people want to do. And yes, it will cost money, but it will keep people safe and it will make their lives better as well.